case. And how fitting is the moment of this year's Munich Security, the motto, not the moment, sorry, of this year's Munich Security Conference, Westlessness. What does it mean when the West leaves the playing field to others? Yes, we did. Not only in Europe, we need a new power of collaboration. We don't want to make the same mistake twice, to leave the field to those who send soldiers without ensuring lasting peace. Also, these are words from Mas. Mas is a great speaker, but I don't know what he will do, or he doesn't know what he will do. In Syria, Assad is not only supported by Russia, but also by Iranian militias. It is Shiite Iran fighting Sunni Saudi Arabia for supremacy in the Middle East. They never declared war on each other. They are causing chaos in the Middle East with proxy wars. And Iran had continued to spread in the Middle East in the shadow of nuclear deal. This was the work of the US, the European Union, Russia, and China. They wanted to control Iran and make it a responsible part of international society. President Trump pulled out of the deal in 2018, as we know. But what did Trump when Iran shot down a US drone in summer of 2019? He only watched. Great, Iran thought, let's move on, let's burn Saudi's oil fields. What happened? Nothing. Could you imagine what would happen if the Iran attacked his declared arch-enemy Israel? Israel has German submarines with nuclear weapons. For Israel, the question is not, will be war against Iran? The question is, when will be the war? At least Iran seems not to have any interest in military escalation at the moment. The targeted killing of General Soleimani, mastermind in the Syrian war, has not changed that either. The danger posed by Iran is another. There is no clear definition of hybrid war. I'd prefer to call it hybrid threats. Today, even small groups can do great damage. Digitally, perhaps, for example. In addition to cybersecurity, climate change, or pandemics, it is terror and it is disinformation that are among the greatest threats of our time. If we talk about terror, and taking Israel as an example, we must talk about Hezbollah, founded and financed by Iran. The terrorist militia is the fourth strongest military force in the world after the major powers. It is based in Lebanon and has about 120,000 or more precise missiles, according to observers, all directed at Israel. Terror is one of Iran's most powerful weapons, at least as long as Tehran does not have nuclear weapons. A war between Israel and Hezbollah also would be devastating. The Israeli Air Force would be forced to fly attacks to destroy Hezbollah's armory. This war would be bloodier than in Lebanon in 2006. And worse than Gaza 2014. A war scenario that cannot be imagined in Europe or Germany. What would follow then? We already know that from Gaza in 2014. Pictures will go around the world showing destroyed houses, dead children and women. Israel will be named an aggressor, the murderer, the war criminal. Anyone will be interested that the terror militias deposited its arsenals in civilian buildings. Criticism of Israel is often justified. The occupation of the Palestinian territories violates Geneva Convention of 1949. But how resilient are these rules? I read a provocative thesis somewhere, I don't remember where. An Israeli historian wrote that the West Bank has never been part of any territory before the founding of the State of Israel, which would legally rule out serious violations or war crimes by settlement construction. I'm not saying that's my opinion, it's not, but it's a view. There are no easy solutions, certainly not in the Middle East. Also written in international humanitarian law is this rule: civilians must be protected, attacks must remain proportionate. But is this possible in asymmetric war? As long as the Syria-Lebanon border is a powder keg, does it make sense that the Golan Heights should still be considered as an occupied area in the sense of international law? For more than 40 years, Israel has offered bilateral talks to return. In current development, it would not only be a disaster for Israel if the area belonged to Syria, it would be also a disaster for all of us, behind the door or before. Like Mas is saying, war is behind our door. I don't know, but he's right that it's dangerous for us all what is happening in the Middle East. Christoph Secon recently told the Security Council, "I continue to regard the Golan as a Syrian territory." Secon is a wise diplomat, not explicitly known for ever taking sides with Israel, but in that case I'm asking myself, is this man so naive? We could get ripped out of our comfort zone at any time. Perhaps it will be too late then to react. At the moment, the Great Coalition is discussing about whether there can be cooperation with NATO partner France in the field of nuclear weapons. We have to argue about it, for sure. It's a difficult issue for us. In order to re-establish international law, Germany has made a binding renunciation of the production and possession of nuclear weapons. German security will be decided in the Middle East, Mas told here in Munich yesterday. As the era of omnipresent world policeman USA is coming to an end, the geopolitical gap in the Middle East becomes visible, Mas said. States with different values than ours are pushing into the gaps. He means Russia and Turkey. Think. Currently, there is no current EU foreign policy. Germany is ready to engage more. I cannot see it. Including militarily, I cannot see it. And I know why I cannot see it. Because he continued to say, we will do more, but embedded in a political logic. Does this say anything? What is a political logic? What does he mean? I don't know. Anyone here knows? It's a slogan. Ischinger was much more critical by saying Germany does too little and too indecisive, shrugging shoulders and lamenting how terrible things are going on in this world doesn't help anyone. But military efforts in German foreign policy would meet with little acceptance among the population. 33% of Germans rate the NATO negatively, as recent survey shows. 3 out of 5 Germans would leave military operations alone to the US. They can make the dirty work. When soldiers in uniform sitting in an ICE train, it created a shitstorm on social media. It's en vogue to be against soldiers. It's a dogma to be a pacifist. The most stupid tweet I read from a journalist was this: "We have peace, we have only friends, I don't need soldiers." Nice for him. Reactions like these lead me to the topic disinformation as another hybrid threat of our time. Do you remember the 3,600 tanks the NATO has stationed in Europe in 2017 to wage war against Russia? It was fake news. It went viral on social media. You can also call it alternative facts, like Trump is doing it. Disinformation includes what I would like like to call misinformation, half-truth, one-sided information, a very subtle thing. Political non-reaction also happens under pressure from media. Good evil thinking is more convenient than dealing with sober analysis. But facts do not become more correct if they are misdescribed. Take Trump's deal, his infamous deal of the century, a peace plan for the Israel-Palestinian conflict. It's not perfect, but it's an idea. It would be worth to try after all peace negotiations have failed before. Even if the EU loves to repeat it like a mantra, we want to have the two-state solution. They have to be resilient. It's not only the two-state solution we have to test. Even the Palestinians do not want to have the two-state solution. It doesn't help to call Trump an idiot, nor is he the most evil US president of all time, as some media outlets love to sell. But words, cleverly chosen, remain in the heads. Take the term apartheid. There is no racial segregation in Israel, as some media spread, but it's a bold word. This is not just the way populists work. Also journalists do. There was one journalist who quoted Tucholsky by tweeting, "Soldiers are murderers, and one can develop cold hate against the Bundeswehr only because of these few soldiers in the ICE train." It was enough for a journalist to write such things. It may be because of the history to neglect soldiers, to neglect war. For more than 20 years, former Nazis were involved in high positions. Then came the so-called 68 generation, hating all they classified as right-wing, accepting therefore more or less militant groups from the left as militant Palestinians or the RAF. They hated the Zionists who created their Jewish state in order to finally have their peace on this world. Media in Germany have always sharply criticized Israel in recent years, sharper than other states, and they are not taking an inch of it. Some discovered an allergy to Israel and Netanyahu. Whatever he decides, it is evil. There's much to blame he is doing, and I don't like him, but he's not a warmonger. And even if he might like to be like Erdogan, he is not. He's still a statesman of a functioning democracy in the Middle East. It was never an easy relationship between Israel and Germany, not only because of history, but also because of the lack of understanding and empathy. Information ensures acceptance. Let's give you an example. In November 2019, Israel's military fired a rocket in a house in a residential neighborhood in Gaza. It was the target killing of a key leader of the Islamic Jihad, Baha Abu al-Atta, the first so-called surgical procedure in years. Al-Atta had repeatedly ordered rocket attacks on Israel. Islamic Jihad and Hamas are financed by Iran too, like Hezbollah. No, the target killing was not merely domestic political calculation of a power-hungry Israeli premier, as several German media reported. The man has a massive security problem. Anyone who understands the historical and military contexts can get an idea. But storytelling is in the foreground in journalism. Many media work with emotions. There seems to be an understatement. Minority are always right, even if there are terrorists. And those who are in favor of peace must not think about war and not talk about war. Munich Security Conference is equal for many people to a war conference. Today there will be several protests against this event. Many people are afraid that the concept of responsibility is based on military operations abroad. Let us not be driven by fear and concern, but less missionary in the world be less missionary in the world. These are not my words. It were the words of Frank-Walter Steinmeier. The only words that surprised me, the rest was blah blah. The Germans live in a post-nationalist and post-militarist world. We have nothing to do with the Bundeswehr. We are pacifists. Nice. I'm also happy to hear about that. Israel, for example, Syria, Libya, Iraq, they cannot be post-nationalist or post-militarist. Do you play chess? When I was a girl, I only tried to protect my queen every time. I hit my king in the right corner, surrounded by his protectors, and I was trapped. With defensive tactics, had opponents an easy game to win against me. It's not about sympathies. We have to deal with the world as it is, and not as with the world as we wish it to be. We do have to create a goal. Where do we want to go with our partners? At least I'm not an expert. I'm only a journalist and an observer, a critical journalist and a critical observer. But you can hear many of experts here and tomorrow at the Pirate Security Conference. And I'm thanking Alex that he has invited me. It's a great day for me. And I don't know the truth. I wished I'd know the truth. But I don't know. Is Enno Lenze here now? Not yet?
Not yet.
Oh, because he knows the truth. Yeah, he knows the truth. He will tell you the truth by watching the war. But I saw that Shoresh, he can be the next speaker perhaps because he has something prepared about resilience. What would be nice to talk about after this lecture. Thank you very much for listening and for inviting me.
We have a short question round.
Okay.
I have a microphone. I will walk around and you can say any question you would like to ask the speaker. So,
provides taxes and which provides places to work. And I also think that might be a problem in all that freedom and liberty and peace discussion. And I think it was a problem in the 80s when the peace movement started, or one part of the peace movement. I think that was already a problem.
Yeah. I know. I also see it critical that they sell weapons to terrorists and at first, that's critical. But you have that in every business, that the black sheeps do their businesses. But in generally, you make love, not war. If there are ongoing wars, you cannot make love here